Hello and welcome to the August tasting of the Fine Cheese Club by the Cheese Lady. Today we have 4 amazing cheeses to discover, but you may notice that on my board I've only got 3 today. Funny story, we have just sold out of the 4th one, but don't worry, I will chat you through it and I hope you will enjoy all the cheeses with me today. I don't have another presenter with me today, so I'm flying solo, but I have invited some other guests to keep us company. So let's start with our very first cheese on the board. So as tradition would have it, we have a soft cheese to begin with. And the very first cheese that we're going to try today is called Délices de Crémier. So that's from Burgundy in France. And like I say, it's a soft cheese. It's made with cow's milk, but it's got a delicious twist to it. When they're making this cheese, they also add a little bit of double cream to the curd, to the milk. And therefore, the resulting cheese is very luxurious, very rich, very delicious. This category of cheeses is known as triple cremes or triple creams. And their fat content is over 75%. But please don't worry, that's in dry matter. This cheese still has quite a lot of moisture in it, and therefore it's not all that bad. And so let's have a little bit of a look at it. Cow's milk, we have a bloomy rind on the outside, so you can see that. So in that way, it is similar to cheeses like brie and camembert. And of course, this type of rind is edible, and it gives it a little bit of a mushroomy note. When you enjoy the cheese, you will get that. With maturity, the rind can get a little bit stronger. It can have a little bit of a bite. So see whether you enjoy it, and if you don't, you can just leave it. Inside, the texture is quite buttery, even visually. You can see it's not gooey and it's not running. It kind of keeps its shape, and when you have it on your palate, you will see that it's like whipped butter. It's very rich and it just kind of mouth coating, absolutely amazing. If you have a quick sniff of the cheese, you'll see it doesn't have a very strong aroma. There's a very mellow mushroomy notes, maybe buttery notes, but it's not very punchy or anything like that. So let's give it a try. I have to admit, I've tried and enjoyed this cheese many times, so I'm very well familiar with it. But every time I enjoy it, it's like a symphony in my mouth. I do love it very much. So very buttery. There's a little bit of salt to give it a balance to the flavor, and a little bit of zing as well. So a very lovely, buttery, zingy, mushroomy with the rind kind of cheese. When it comes to enjoying this type of cheese with wine, because it's quite rich on the palate, I do recommend lifting its texture with bubbles. So bubbly drinks like Prosecco or Champagne work really, really well with triple creams, because like I say, they expand the texture, they make the texture more moussey, if you will, on the palate, and they certainly cut through that fattiness of the cheese. My personal top recommendation would be Bicard Salmon Champagne, and this is my personal favorite. This is sous bois, so it's been matured in oak barrels and it's absolutely fabulous. Do recommend trying it if you haven't. But of course, if you don't have this wonderful champagne, so anything like Prosecco or Cava will work really, really well as well. Now, let's move on to our second cheese. And for the second cheese, we are going to England, Gloucestershire, so right in the heart of the Cotswolds. And it's a farmhouse cheese made by Charles Martel and his team at the farm, and they're quite a wonderful producer. Charles has been farming for over 50 years now, and he revived quite a few endangered cheeses and actually endangered breeds of cattle like Gloucester cows. So they're doing remarkable work. But in 1994, they invented this cheese. So this has been around for 30 years now, and this cheese is called Stinking Bishop. So it has a little bit of a reputation. Many people at least have heard of it if they haven't tried it. And it is a smelly one, but you may be surprised to know that the name of the cheese doesn't actually come from its smell, but it comes rather from the variety of pear that's used in making perry that this cheese is washed in. So the pear variety is called Stinking Bishop. So they wash this cheese during its maturation process in this perry, and therefore it also acquires a little bit of an aromatic nature to it, shall we put it this way. So we see the orange rind, that's the sign of it being a washed rind cheese. And washed rind cheeses, as you may already know, are always aromatic and smelly. So let's have a closer look at it. Of course, this is cow's milk, but we can see that in contrast to our Délice de Crémier, quite a different look, quite a different texture. This one has a little bit more of a glossiness to it, a few little eyes, a little bit more of a cream hue to it as well, and of course the orange rind, which will bring another dimension to the flavor. Have a little whiff. You can smell inside the cheese, you can smell the rind, which as I've mentioned, will have a different aroma. But once we come to trying this cheese, you will see that on the palate, it's not really quite as strong as you can imagine from smelling it. It does have a really beautiful silky texture to it, a little bit kind of sticky, but also a little bit like dense clotted cream, if you will. Absolutely amazing. And the rind, when you try it together with the cheese, I find that it makes it a little bit more nutty. So a very, very complex cheese. Absolutely adore it. And personally, I would love to enjoy it with nice kind of Alsatian style white wine. So here I have our Pinot Gris from New Zealand. But of course, like I say, the Alsatian wines would be a really good choice for it as well. Or you can enjoy it with beer or cider. So have a little experiment and see which combination you prefer yourself. I do hope you're enjoying Stinking Bishop now, and you're not too put off by its name and its aroma. Now, moving on to our third cheese. We are moving up north to Scotland, just where we are. This producer is about an hour's drive from us. So this is from Errington Cheese, the famous producer of Lanark Blue, which has been around for decades now. And this is one of their newest creations. It's existed now for maybe 8 to 10 years. And it's an amazing cheese in its own right. So this cheese is called Coralin, and it comes in a big trocal, at least 10 kilos in weight. It's cloth bound, so it's made like a traditional cheddar. And not only does it look like a cheddar, it's also cheddar during the cheese making process. So that creates a more of a crumbly texture. And of course, because the cheese is matured in cloth, when you smell it, especially if you smell near the rind, you will perceive some earthy notes because of the maturation in the cellar. So if we break this cheese, we'll see the texture is a little bit crumbly. It doesn't break in an even way like an Alpine cheese. And of course, have a smell. Very nice nutty notes as well. And with sheep's milk cheeses, it's very common to also pick up some lanolin notes. So if you can imagine smelling wet woolly jumper, that kind of aroma is what I mean by lanolin. So let's have a try. It's crumbly, yet it's smooth. It develops into this lovely paste, full of nutty notes. There's a little bit of acidity, a little bit of bite. Super, super complex. And funnily, I also get this flavor of maybe boiled potatoes. It has that kind of sweetness to it. Absolutely amazing cheese. Now, personally, I tend to go for red wines when I think of mature sheep's milk cheeses. So my top recommendation here is this lovely Bordeaux, very classic, actually also organic. So I absolutely adore this wine. Give it a try, but if you enjoy any other reds, try to experiment there as well at home. Don't go too heavy. Don't go too light. Kind of in the middle would be the best area to be with your red wine. Okay, I hope you enjoyed our Corlin. And now for our final cheese, we virtually transport ourselves to Italy. So the fourth cheese that's in our cheese box for August is Gorgonzola Dolce. It's a super famous cheese, but sometimes very famous cheeses can be slightly misunderstood. And a lot of people confuse cheeses like dolce latte for being gorgonzola. So let me dispel that myth. Gorgonzola is a name protected cheese, and there are two main varieties in existence that are protected by law: Gorgonzola dolce and Gorgonzola picante. Interestingly, Gorgonzola picante is the original style. It existed for many centuries before they invented Gorgonzola dolce, which is the milder, more gooey and voluptuous variety in the 1950s. So originally we had a much stronger Gorgonzola. Then they created the milder one, which everybody fell in love with. And then supermarkets developed their varieties to have a play on Gorgonzola because it was so famous. And therefore we have Dolce Latte, which is the industrial cheese. So as I've mentioned, Gorgonzola Dolce is very mellow, very beautiful, luxurious, almost runny in texture. And what's interesting about Gorgonzola, it has a different type of blue mold inside compared to cheeses like Stilton and Roquefort, the most famous ones. So those would have Penicillium roqueforti blue mold, whereas Gorgonzolas have Penicillium glaucum. And that's actually a slightly mellower variety of blue, and therefore Gorgonzola Dolce is so just inviting. And if you find blue cheeses a little bit too strong and you're not sure whether you would like them or not, I always recommend starting your blue cheese journey with Gorgonzola Dolce. When it comes to enjoying it with wine, tradition has it that you have to have blue cheeses with sweeter wines, but because this cheese is so mellow, I think that a sweet wine would just overwhelm it. However, you can try it with a sparkling, lightly sweet wine like Asti Spumante, or I also personally like it with Prosecco. I think that works really, really nicely together and it wouldn't overwhelm the cheese. So that would be my top tip. I hope you enjoyed our brief tasting. I hope you enjoyed spending time with me and discovering new cheeses. And of course, if you have any suggestions and any comments, please let me know in the comments below. Please let me know what was your favorite cheese and what you'd like to hear from us next time, if there's anything else we can chat to you about. And now I would like to wish you a beautiful day, and I'll see you next time.